So with this, we start the panel discussion, and the topic is digitalization versus automation. So over to you, Professor Mark.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to have this very interactive session with the panel and hopefully also you. In this case, we have three main persons that we are involving in this discussion and that will be leading some of this panel discussion. We have Mr. George Etzel, who is the chairman of Leading Practice, and we have heard before giving a great speech on the aspects of the newest trends and the forces happening in the market. Then we have senior lecturer Jamie Caine. We very much enjoy to have him here because he's a specialist both in information systems, business modeling, and I know that his specialty in his PhD was digital transformation, digital innovation, and strategy. So I am also looking forward very much to hear him from that. And then we have as the third panelist, Vikram Kumar, which is very good. This is a Danish company, OnRobot. So he's a fellow Danish person. I'm also from Denmark. And in this case, he's the general manager for Middle East and Africa. So I'm very much looking forward to have him here also share. We start with three very easy questions where I will first ask Jamie, followed by George, and then Kumar. So having had that, and by the way, you guys can set in the chat if it is wished, and if you have a question, please feel free to put something in the chat or in the comments where we could be asking some questions. I will be taking questions also from the chats, so please feel free to add there. So the first question goes out to senior lecturer Jamie Caine. And the reasons why is we have a lot of people not understanding because the panel's very subject is automation and digitalization. So I wanted to ask you as a senior lecturer, what does the market define automation and digitalization, and what is really the difference? Could you maybe shed light on this, Mr. Caine?
Professor Mark, thank you very much for the question. I think it's a relevant one to help sort of, for the purpose of this discussion, have some baseline understanding. So as actually Vikram pointed out earlier on, automation has actually been happening for many years. If we're contrasting automation with digitalization, I think what we need to understand here is that from an automation perspective, yes, there is obviously the transformation, the transfer of what's physical to digital. And in terms of processes, we're finding ways to automate processes. Of course, new forms of automation is coming through robotics. But when we talk about digitalization, we are talking about the development of new business models, new streams of innovation, new services that actually, in some cases, develop new markets, redefine markets, and often disrupt markets. So very much, if you think about the streams of innovation, you yourself, Professor Mark, alluded to earlier on, we have incremental innovation, which obviously looks at improving mainly the existing things. So with Vikram's example of automation is there to help improve and enhance the efficiency of what you're existingly doing as on an operational level. But when you talk about substantial and radical innovation, this is where you start going into the realm of rethinking the business model, developing new streams of value, developing new services, and applying in the forms of radical innovation, disruptive competencies to help literally radically innovate. So this is how we can differentiate automation from digitalization. automation would more be in the realm of incremental innovation. Digitalization more connects to substantial and radical innovation, where you're looking at new business models, new streams of value, new services. Hope that makes sense.
It does very much, and I appreciate actually this definition, because I believe, as I meet many executives, I also believe that the participants here are often wondering what is the one and what is the other, and what is in reality the difference, or is it same thing just packaged new? And I very much like your very clear description of saying, yes, you can both use robotics, you can use all of the technology within automation, but basically it is doing the same thing you have today, a little bit more effective or efficient.
Absolutely.
Which is automation. And that is a very, very good description of saying, and by the way, not to state that this is wrong or not as beneficial. As a matter of fact, entire industries are going down that line and see benefits of that. This is very, very important. I also like very much the session of that we just had from Vikram, where he also shared that this is also happening in healthcare. This is, I mean, we are seeing multiple industries adapting to this. So I like this definition. It's very simplistic of saying, well, automation, you have this, which is literally the word automation. When you are starting to be digital, you are actually reinventing the way you are doing your processes or services, because now you are delivering them digital. So it's a digitalization. It's a very, I mean, already the word is very good described in it and highly simplistic. I like it, and I appreciate that. If I could jump directly, due to the fact of the interest and also some of the chats that are, could I jump to you, Kumar, here and ask, so how or why are devices and robotics so important in automation and digitalization of this journey?
I think so. As a professor, I think so. Told about the difference between digitalization and automation. I think so. The more we want to innovate and we want to define the processes, it is very important that we go for automation as well as digitalization, so that we are able to transfer a lot of analogs into text, into what you say, into figures, and then analyze those big data to improve and to further grow. So I think so both are very much required to go and to what we are talking about, industry 4.0. So automation and digitalization together can help the companies and the manufacturing units to really, as professor said, to look into their existing process and try to innovate into a big scale. So when you are doing automation, it is very important also how you can get those data digitally and understand them and do the data mining and further improvise your process, because automation alone will not help. You need to also know the cycle time, the downtime, the quality feedback, and this can only be done by digitalization. And once you have these all, how you can analyze the data, it is very important in improving the whole process.
Yes, thank you very much of explaining this to us and giving a better insight, because let's face it, there's a lot of organizations who don't know how this fit together.
Absolutely.
Who don't understand or who have the need of doing it, but literally don't say, well, how would I now go about it? Where would I do it? So I appreciate this very much. I will take a personal example of just to discuss this here. So I was just involved on a quite larger project in a medical pharma industry. It's in the Novo area. So there is a company called Novozymes who's doing a lot of enzymes. As a matter of fact, they are the #1 biotechnology company in the world. And they wanted to think, how in the world are we rethinking the entire operations and supply chains with the help of robotics? But this already starts in the very testing of the enzymes. So it starts, I mean, this is not only in the typical manufacturing process. We are now talking that this, what Vikram has shared here, actually is going across all areas. It already started in, all right, how are we testing it? Can we automate all the testing? Now, these were all done manual today everywhere. Now, if you are involving machines of doing these testings, robots, you could change, you could eliminate failure rates, and you could do it much faster and much cheaper and much more effective and efficient the outcome. And obviously, as it was just mentioned, we're talking the entire value chain where this could be possible. So, yes, I enjoy
Mark,
this very much. This was a very good example of why it was needed and
Professor Mark?
why. And by the way, I
And
mentioned. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mark, further, I want to give an example is L'Oreal. That's the French cosmetics company.
Yes.
And this case study is already there on our website, onrobot.com, and people can write L'Oreal. And they went for automation and digitalization in their lab to have this hair text uh, innovation options, which they were doing manually with the lab engineers and scientists. And they implemented collaborative robots and our force torque sensor to have the different kind of combinations and permutations which they can do faster in order to have the innovation in the hair text, and also how they will define their production line. So that in the initial, as you are saying, in their lab or in the innovation stage, they went for further automation and digitalization to improvise this kind of permutation and combination. The entire case study is there already,
Yes.
which also helps, as you told about Novozyme. It is very interesting that we never ever thought that this can be used in the initial stage for hair text colors, different permutation and combination in L'Oreal in their lab, which will define their production process, and the future is how they want to do with this their product.
Fantastic. What you have both discussed there is great examples of that life cycle phase of continuous improvement, right? We've done studies and work in industry where we've looked at life cycle approaches towards processes. I published something with Professor Mark actually on the life cycle of strategy, but more to the point, you're talking about continuous improvement. So when you are going through a life cycle phase of thinking, you know, you understand, you design, you develop, you then manage your performance, and then you continuously improve. What we're saying here is that we're utilizing robotics, automation, the analysis of data to help us continuously improve our processes, our efficiency, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a really important point to take on board, that, you know, from our study of outperformers, continuously improving and having that center of excellence to help you do that is critical in your journey to maintain competitiveness and to also continue your journey of transformation and innovation. So this is very good points that you both made.
Yeah.
If I
And
may
I
say
think
a
it
couple.
also feels very good together. If we could jump very short and also involve George in the discussion here. Mr. Etzel, you are a specialist in a lot about, and you are literally leading patterns and researchers in innovation and transformation. Now, all of us, including all the presentations this morning that we have had on this African summit, have been touching and mentioning the words process automation and transformation. We also talked about automation and transformation. We talked about digitalization and transformation, but we talked about also automation and innovation. We also talked about digitalization and innovation. Would you mind explain, because I also looked at your profile, you literally are the head, in this case, of innovation and transformation practices. Would you mind explaining to a normal user that we have here and listener, now, what is innovation and what is transformation? And what is actually the difference? I mean, because we are using the words all the time, including in our discussion.
Yes.
Could you explain that to us? And then we try to mix that in with aspects of automation and digitalization and robotics, if okay. So you're seen.
Professor Mark, I really appreciate this question, and I'm glad that you are asking, because this is so important. It kind of reminds me that number one, there's this general misunderstanding. Everything is transformation. Everything is innovation. I used to live a long time in the US, and I remember seeing in the commercials things like new and improved. And actually, something that is new doesn't need any improvement, because new means never before seen. So let me shed some light into it, and let me put some clarity into what is innovation, what is transformation. Okay? Number one, if we look at innovation, we're looking at the act of creating something new. It means never before seen. It is new. Innovation is, so to say, compared to what? It is new. You can't compare it. It is distinct from transformation. Transformation comes from the act of changing something that is already existing, and making it either better, improving it. And those are two worlds which, in let's say, and I see it everywhere where I go, that it's being jumped and thrown together like as one, innovate and transform. But actually, we're talking about two worlds. Number one is the world of innovation, which you bring in something into existence. And the other one is transforming, which you're taking something and you're improving and changing it. And I think this is something that explains it the best.
I very much appreciate that, because let's face it, these words are used so much in organizations. And I think, I mean, because here are so many words, they need to learn about the Industrial Revolution. Okay, that we have started to understand more and more. But we have new industries who are adding to this. We have new abilities that never have been thought about before. I mean, we are now exploring that organizations in their warehouse are using automated systems, automated robots, driverless cars and transports. So we are totally new exploring worlds. We are involving, I was myself involved in a project in the city of Munich, where in the libraries, you are meeting a robot. You do not have a librarian anymore. We are now really talking cutting edge, totally new ways of interacting. It was a robot that came forward. It literally had a pad within it, and it interacted with any kind of, so it had some sort of AI or cognitive components within it. You could interact. And it had limitations, but it had all the parts that is to the, so it was not Siri where you could ask stupid things. Do you want to go on a date or something like that? No, it didn't have that interaction, but you could also then choose, and it would show the, well, you would find this book here, you would find that book there. So it literally had all the knowledge management sessions of the entire library. I find we are exploring new limits. I very much like the part that you are saying, when we talk innovation, it's new. When we talk existing improvement, we talk transformation. Now it also makes sense. Why do all organizations and the entire market then talk about digital transformation? Very easily. Because every company already exists. It doesn't matter if they do incremental innovation, substantial innovation, or radical innovation, they would still have to transform. Because wherever they are, they need to go somewhere. So that makes sense. Thank you very much. I think this adds a little bit into this wonderful discussion that we are having, which now makes me also go over, and if this is okay. So if I could ask here, Kumar, if we could jump into you and then say, so what would be either good innovation or transformation components for automation or digitalization? What would be, if you now say, and I do realize this is very difficult because depending on industry, this can really variate. But let's say I'm a company or I'm an executive, how many are who will be listening to this who say, good, I need to do something, I could find some budget. What would you recommend them? How do you get started? Or what are good things of where to start? I mean, anything that you could say, how do they start this journey?
And as you rightly said, it depends upon the industry. So each industry has their own different kind of scenarios, which can be transformed or innovated, or innovations can be done. I will give some examples. Like we have a Danish company called as they are making the enzymes. Mark,
Is Novozymes?
no, the one. Just a second. They are. I am getting really. Uh, I am getting old. They are this. They were having this. Chris Hansen.
Ah,
Chris
yeah,
Hansen.
Chris Hansen, yes,
Yes.
yes. By the way, very big global player, yes.
Yeah, many people don't know about it, but in Denmark we are small, but we are having very big companies like Lego, Arla, Danfoss, and but Chris Hansen is also Danish, and it is a, I think so, 1-2 billion euro company with 7,000 people or 4,000 people. Very big global company. So they were having they were testing 70 bottles of enzymes every day, which was done by a by a by a manual labor, which was just where you have to shake the liquid in the bottles, 70 bottles doing this task repetitively, sitting in the lab and just not even pick and place, but just shaking it.
Yes, we are not
And
talking high job satisfaction here. It's
and
like,
this is not
it's like
just
after some time, it might not be very high job satisfaction here.
70 bottles, and that's where they were looking for a solution, where they were looking for a robot with end of arm tooling, which is electrical, which where they can get this kind of information, because people who were doing this job repetitively were having the wrist injury. They were having this wrist injury. So we started in pandemic, and last year in April, and in Denmark, and then it took 7 months, but finally we were able to give them 5 robots universal with OnRobot gripper, and they are so happy that they are now talking about more automation and more information with the software and digitalization. They are seeing that they can improve their efficiency in the lab and can go for more options as compared to before. Second, I already told about L'Oreal, where they were doing 157 formulas in the cosmetic industry in their lab before the robots and automation. Once they went for collaborative robot, they were able to do 457 formulas or permutation and combinations, which helped them very much in the cosmetics. Third is also we are seeing a lot of new especially in the corona time, there was a lot of challenge for strawberry picking in UK, because a lot of the cheap laborers could not travel from Romania or Poland to UK. There were chartered flights sent to allow these guys to come to UK, but then suddenly this agricultural industry with automated guided vehicle, with robots, with suitable gripper and camera is looking into an option where how these strawberries and apple can be, or even avocado. We have a project in South America where we are talking about picking these with the artificial intelligence and camera and automated guided vehicle and robot and gripper to pick these in greenhouse and also on the field where there was a lot of problem with the corona that people were not allowed to go and collect it. We also talked about warehousing, where we are seeing a lot of companies going into automatic warehousing, including drones lifting delivery, whether it is Amazon and all that. So we can continue this, but again, as Mark, you said, it depends upon various industry and application. But there are many jobs and applications which can have both innovation as well as it can have transformation and possible. And the time will not wait for it. We know about it. It is always survival of the fittest, and the companies who have done innovation or gone into transformation and have been flexible to adapt new technologies survive, and those who have not done it will go out.
Yes, or it will at least be impacting their ability to renew themselves as these changes are hitting. I have allowed, and please note, I will state that very clear, I have never met Vikram actually before this meeting or his organization. When I saw it was on, I was very happy about it. I looked also. And for all of you who are interested to figure out how to go about this, I have looked at their homepage, and here are their case studies. I have put it in the chat room for anybody who wants to read on OnRobot, their case studies that they have. The reasons I find it very inspirable because it describes various phases of where you could do it. You could do it in a research, you could do it in a supply chain, you could be literally doing it in the label work, as it was mentioned, or in the production, or in multiple. So if you need inspiration, I highly recommend you to look there, because why? This is triggered by aspects of transformation. But before I'm taking the time, I would like to jump to our some of the last two questions, because I would like to, as we have some time back, Jamie, I know that your PhD literally had the focus on aspects of digital innovation transformation, and specifically around process. I'm very, very keen on what is exactly, so first of all, what is the importance of strategy in digital innovation and transformation? And secondly, what is the difficulty of it in the process? If you could maybe use 2 minutes, because we don't have so much time, to give a short overview of the difficulties of organizations faced, because they want to do the journey, but they can't unless they start somewhere with a strategy.
Okay, so I will start this answer with also connecting to what was previously discussed in terms of the ways to go about it. So first of all, the importance of having a digital strategy is of the utmost. Why? Because organizations are impacted by 4.0, whether they like it or not. Therefore, to have a digital direction, a strategy, is critically important to help drive where the organization is going on their digital journey. The problem what I found is, not only through research, but also in industry, whilst organizations are scrambling to understand how they can leverage all these new forms of technology, the problem is they don't know where to start. What I found very useful, and an example that I'm working on right now, is with the Agriculture Research Council in South Africa. They're responsible for provisioning farmers across South Africa. They also have further remit in terms of providing solutions to help increase efficiency for farming. So looking at robotics, drones to help pick the right plants at the right time, etc., etc. The problem is, if they set their digital strategy without understanding where to apply 4.0 technology, it will be very generic. So what we're doing here is doing a maturity assessment to develop a roadmap of how they need to be transforming and applying the technology. And from this, you can then re-engineer the strategy that addresses the priorities, where they need to be allocating resource and budget that can help them on their roadmap. So here, strategy becomes very important, but it's re-engineered from understanding where the pain points are, challenges are, and also the priorities. But nevertheless, strategy is of the utmost importance. But the maturity assessment for digital transformation is key in able to have a re-engineered strategy that can be really hitting the spot in terms of where you need to go. Hope that provides a very concise answer, folks.
This was very good, and it literally also helped organizations, because this is often one of the problem. Their budgets are related to their plans. The plans are related to the strategy. And while strategy is very difficult, because how in the world do you get started in this?
Exactly.
You first, I mean, you must have budgets in order to do an investment. In order to get a budget, you must have a plan. In order to have a plan, you must have somewhere a relationship to a strategy, but strategies are not existing because they don't know what to do. So
Yes.
we are looping here in the difficulty.
Exactly.
And that's where the mark, I have to say, this is the biggest problem, because I showed a slide where automation is 9%. And if we look into the robot density or the distribution, then in Europe it is 2%, less than 1% or 1.5% in America, and it is and the rest is what do you say is 7% in Asia Pacific. So you are exactly touching the right question. When people have to make strategy, they don't know how to do it, because when you don't know about it, then how you will make a strategy and what you want to implement or what.
Exactly.
And that's where, as a company, not us, but all automation digital 4.0 company, we have this challenge, how we are going to reach this 9% to 30%, where we have so many references online, on the digital world or in the paper, that people know what they want. That is the biggest challenge what entire digital 4.0 is facing, to go to a 30% level, which is according to TED. If you want to go for a volume sale, then you need to have 30% market share. Then you get orders while sitting and having on the laptop. But till the time this goes to 30%, each company in automation, each company in industry 4.0 has to work to help these companies make their strategy and how they can improve. This is
Yes.
my opinion.
Vikram, you're mentioning something that is really important that I want to point out. Why so many digital transformation initiatives fail. And actually, it is huge.
Yes.
According to Gartner, we're looking at a 69% or up chances of failing. That means we're looking at billions and billions of euros and dollars who are being spent in hoping that it will bring forward, but actually it's causing more and more confusion. If I may add just one more thing, and I know we are
and before you add that, we would like to, because this is going to be the last point that we have the session, because while we have a lot of interests and a lot of things that are going here to the things, I'm going to ask one last question, and that is going to, if that is okay, that is going to be in the aspects of you, George, where we will add. But for those who are interested in the chat, besides that, I have added aspects of what we just discussed, of case studies from on robotics. I also added in the chat aspects of knowledge sharing, of how to go about it in thought leaders or outperformers. So you guys can read some case stories, see some things, and get inspired. Having said that, the last questions to you, if we could do very short, George, how could an organization now go effectively about both involving digital transformation and innovation? Because we already had here on the chat writing, so how in the world can I combine it? It's a hybrid. Is there somewhere, should we find a new word? No, because it's called digital transformation. But how in the world do you make this hybrid? Could you very short explain that to organizations? what are some of the steps they could be doing?
Thank you very much for this question, and I will try to use very few words. Here it is what we have to consider. A digital innovation and transformation journey is not a it is a non-linear, it is an interactive, agile process that involves actually 4 phases. Number 1 is the understanding phase. It is to know what to do. This leads into the innovating phase, which then again leads into the transformation phase. And after that, we have the continuous improvement that help guide executives and practitioners to work with the digital innovation and transformation concepts and capabilities during the entire development phase and lifespan. So those 4 phases are the ones: to understand, to innovate, to transform, and the continuous and improvement throughout. That's in very few words.
I appreciate that very much. The time has too sadly run out, even though there is a lot of interest on the subjects. Kumar and Vikram, I really appreciate that you come. George and Jamie, thank you for sharing this and literally trying to help organizations in their journey of this. I appreciate very much.
I'm very honored. Thank you.
Enjoyed this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, George. Thank you, Aluj. And thank you, Amir.
Thank you, Vikram. Thank you so much for joining in. Well, gentlemen, we have come to the end of the session of panel discussion. I think it was a very fruitful one. In fact, one of our speaker, Stuart, he was supposed to join in the stage, but looks like he has some difficulty in terms of his internet connection. He's trying to just load it back on. So meanwhile, I mean, if you want to continue with some discussion that you think can be fruitful, you're most welcome, or else we can take a break.
I will just say bye-bye. I have a meeting, so I will rush out. But George, yeah, George, the very nice conclusion of transformation, innovation, understanding, and continuous journey to improve again and again. But as I said, many people and money industry don't understand this, and we all have to help them to go through these digital transformation journey. That will be the only way, hand-holding, spoon-feeding, till the time the market is mature enough to do it.
Yes.
And this is not easy. And as you said, 66%, 70% fails. I can tell you, in my industry, it is the same. When the collaborative robots have been launched, people buy it without even understanding what is collaborative robots, and the robots are still lying on their floor. This is even happening with many customers and company. And this happens with us also, where I also don't know about my iPhone 90% functionalities. I don't know about my car driving the entire functionalities. That's the problem. And it is also the problem with our brain, that if we can use 100%, then we are super human being. So that's a challenge, but thank you.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much. That's a very good point that you just made.
Yeah. Really, so thank you, sir. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you, Vikram. Thank you so much for that.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.